And at that time, it was probably 2010. That's when I got approached. I was in the Colorado Guard at the time, and I got approached by a chaplain who was a friend of mine, a lieutenant. And he had this poster that they had sent out. I didn't even see it. And he walked up to me and he's like, it has your name all over it. Like, you need to do this. You need to apply. And it was this whole very like robust paper interview. You had to actually go and take, I think they quit doing this later on, but we were the first group of like formalized women to go through. It's called CST2. You had to go take your math and English, like a baseline test. You had to get a certain score on it. So you had your ASVAB, but you had to go take another one. You had to pass with a certain PT standard. And then you had to submit this huge packet, like a paper interview process, basically. And then if you passed that, then they called you to Fort Bragg, where then you went through the actual physical, like 2 to 3 weeks at Camp McCoy, where you went out and you had fun for, a few weeks doing what they called like a mini selection course. And then once you went through that, then you would go, if you got selected then, because sometimes you weren't selected, even if you passed it, you still could get cut at the very end. If you made it through that, then you were brought back again for another 2 or 3 months of cultural training before you even deployed out at that time.
That I was actually just going to ask, did they send you to Fort Bragg initially? Because that's for viewers who might not know, that's the headquarters, right, of the Special Operations Command?
Yes, that is. That's where, they've got, Delta there, the Green Berets there. It's the main headquarters of a lot of things that for the train up, because you've got the training hall there for Special Operations Command and everything. And that's where we were located. We lived and breathed within that space and worked primarily with 3rd Special Forces Group out there. They were the TRADOC that was basically training us during that time was 3rd Special Forces Group. So they were doing our combatives training and all of our PT in the morning, road marching. We were learning how to trade up on night vision goggles and all of it, everything you can imagine. It was a wild time.
Well, and we're going to dive into that in a second. Before we dive into that, did they make a pitch to you? Like when they bring you this poster and you're like, okay, this seems like my speed, and you sit down with the people making the decision, are they pitching you or are you pitching them for the opportunity to give this a try? Who's pitching who to go?
That's a great question. So putting it in perspective for everyone listening, because up to this point, women were really suppressed in the military. And there were so many women like myself that were these high achieving women that were just extremely successful. And they had this like physical being about them that they could do so much more, but we weren't being given the opportunity. So having that flyer go out, they really didn't have to pitch us. They initially did a voluntel. So how this all transpired, just to give some context around the CST program, at the time we had, the war in Afghanistan going on, and we were gathering information off of the Afghans, and it was primarily being done by ODAs. And these ODAs, 12 and 15 man special ops teams. And just to clarify, this could include like Army Rangers going out there, Special Forces, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Marine MARSOCs. They were going out there, they were gathering intelligence, but they were not able to, the male operators were not able to speak to women and children. So General McChrystal at the time, he saw this big intel gap and was like, we need to tap into 50% of the population, the women and children. How do we do that? So that is how this all transpired, is like, let's train women up to go and embed with these operators that are already out there to help support them and get that information that we're not getting right now and complete that intel picture. And so in 2010, they did kind of a voluntel, and they just took women that were in special ops and were like, you're going to go out and be part of this mission. And then when we were recruited, it was basically a poster. And I am telling you, when I tell you women came out from all corners of the world, that is literally what happened. I met a woman because we had to remove our rank while we were at the Corps. So I remember being in a night road march. It was like an unidentified distance. I think it was 13 or 14 miles. And you can't talk. And there was this one female that was walking next to me, and she was so thirsty, and she was like whispering, and she's like, do you have some water? So I share it with her. We talk a little bit, and she's like, I flew in from Kuwait. She was deployed. She saw the opportunity. She was like, I want to go home early. She literally flew in from Kuwait and went directly into the selection process. And there were active duty, there were National Guard, there were women from all over that came together. So the problem wasn't finding the women, because all of us wanted to do this. Like a lot of us, it was like, this is our opportunity to really shine and see what we're worth. And so it was really, they actually had to cut it off because they had so many women that wanted to participate in the program.